All right. So, for those of you on my channel, I know I don't normally go live. I figured I might start doing this a little more frequently, just because there's a lot to unpack and a lot to talk about. Sometimes things that are just really hot on the press, things that we should discuss in the moment, and we don't always have time to prepare and sit down together, especially me and the other hosts. So, I'm going to reference the last video I posted, which was as I was driving to my office. I was thinking about. I just had this thought. It was like, the people being scared because Captain Moroni led a movement that that caused them to lose their attempt to take over the power, and to read Alma 46. And I did that, and I shared all those thoughts there about how. Well, I guess if you haven't seen the video, go back and watch that video. But here's kind of a follow-up from there about why Trump is the modern Captain Moroni of our day. And I don't mean that in terms of his character. I don't mean that, if all men had been and ever would and were and ever would be like unto Trump. No. Or, I mean Moroni. I don't mean that sort of a comparison. What I mean is the actions. So tons of us as Latter-day Saints, we take for granted what we've been given. We have been given amazing blessings. We have the fullness of the gospel. We have the restored church. We have additional scripture that was translated by the gift and power of God. I'm going to sneeze. Translated by the gift and power of God. And it was written for our day. The prophet Mormon, who compiled it all together, he said that he saw our day. He was allowed to see our day. He saw the secret combinations among us. He saw these things that were happening, and he chose to include specific stories out of the thousands and thousands of records and stories he could have chosen to put in that happened amongst the Nephites. He chose what he chose because he saw our day. The Lord led him to choose those things. And so as you look at some of these things, right, as you look at our day, and then you read through the Book of Mormon, through like the war chapters in Alma, through the disintegration of society in Helaman, to the destruction of government in Third Nephi, and the destruction of civilizations in Fourth Nephi and Ether, Fourth Nephi and more, or the deterioration of the civilization of Fourth Nephi, the destruction of the civilization of the Nephite civilization in Mormon, and the destruction of the Jaredite nation in Ether. You look at all these things, and you have to say, this is a lens. This is a Urim and Thummim for our day. This is a lens by which we need to put it over our eyes and start to see our world through this lens. He was teaching us things. And there's a lot of things you can learn from Scripture. I mean, you can learn a lot of great principles. You can understand human behavior. You can understand the cycle of righteousness and unrighteousness, which also is very similar to the cycle of tyranny and freedom. You can also see that if these things, like Mormon said, he saw our day, these secret combinations are had among us, and that they're had among all nations, especially in our day, that we might be able to start discerning similar activities from the Book of Mormon in our day. So as I have read the scriptures, and I watched the events unfolding in the world, especially in my nation, in America, I started to find these similarities, and I asked myself, okay, is this a war chapter moment? Is this an Ether this chapter moment? Is this a Helaman with Laconius moment? Is this a Fourth Nephi or / Mormon, loss of the civilization moment? Like, what's going on here? And what we saw with the re-rising of Trump to become president again, we saw a Captain Moroni sort of moment. People give Mike Lee a lot of flack for for saying this in the last election cycle. He said, he's telling for my Latter-day Saint friends, I think of him like Captain Moroni. Well, because we're so hoity-toity, and this is the same for all religious people, we look too carefully at things, too tightly at things that people say. We cannot understand the context by which they mean these things, and so we go, wow, like how dare you liken the scriptures in that way? That's ridiculous. But what we should really understand is that he was right. Trump really is a Captain Moroni, a form of Captain Moroni in our day. And we saw an Alma 46 event happen last night. It was all culminating, right? Alma 46, it's not one day this all happens. Malachi in one day doesn't go, hey, I think we should have a new form of government, flatter people away from the church, etc., and then say, let's alter the forms of government, and then we're in a precarious state, and then you have Captain Moroni rip his coat and put the title of liberty on it, and then suddenly everyone comes together to defend their freedom, their wives, their children, religion. That doesn't happen in a single day. This is over time. Well, that's like what we saw here. We saw this grassroots Christian movement. People rally to his cause, which was to defend your nation, to make it good, a place of goodness once more, prosperous, righteous, all right, whole, unified, safe from dangers. Like this grassroots movement, these people really flocked to do that, and it awoke people to the situation. Captain Moroni did that same sort of thing when he saw Amalickiah about to take this power. Well, that's only happening, and it's only a danger if the good people, are not doing something about it. And they did not do something about it. They were not getting themselves prepared to stop this evil. In fact, they would have just been overcome because we just live distracted lives. It's very normal. So he did the title of liberty. People came running together, and they prevented that from happening. Well, Trump had his flag out, people came running together, people from both sides of the aisle, from all over, and especially those who were, typically not very active or don't think very much about these things, realized this is something I need to act upon, and I'm going to vote for this guy. And it prevented the government from having too much corruption, right? It's full of corruption, but prevented an Amalickiah sort of candidate, party, group, secret combination from maintaining the government seat and continuing to do evil things to our nation. That was a Alma 46 Captain Moroni moment and experience. Now, what happens next, I don't know. But the Book of Mormon is the lens by which we can view this world and see what is happening clearly, without getting deceived, without being flattered away out of the gospel principles, the truths that we understand. We don't believe in these woke ideologies, these Marxist ideas, because we use it as our lens, as a Urim and Thummim, to understand our day. So I encourage you, look back what's happened. A lot of times we don't see these things, we don't understand them till after the fact, and I'm kind of slow in that way too. I'll be like, oh, holy crap, oh yeah, wow, this is what's taking place. Do your best to do that, and let's prepare for the sheep show that's going to happen now that Trump has secured the election. What's going to happen next? What does the opposition do? What is the response going to be? Do we see terrible tragedies happen, things manufactured or whatever else, in order to slow the progress of the nation and of Trump's transition to power? Does that happen? I think it was a great blessing to us that Trump did lose 2020, because we were not awake enough yet. It would have been kind of like Captain Moroni trying to be like, hey, putting his flag and saying, for our wives, our religion, our children, defend these things. And people went, why? What? It's not that bad. We're not in danger. Instead, God allowed, this whole shenanigans to happen in 2020, and to see and have the whole world, the whole nation, get more and more made aware and become privy to the fact that there's a lot of corruption going on. There's a lot of evil things, and this man does not stop because he believes in what he's doing, and he's sacrificing all of it. He actually is willing to put it all on the line. And look what's happening to him for doing that. And people begin, and they also experience the financial, the economic difference, the spiritual difference, all those things between his presidency and this current presidency. It was actually a really, really good thing for our nation, and it woke us up and it did great things for us. We're now in a better place because of it. we are like, regardless of what the outcome, even if it had gone to Kamala, it was a really good thing to go through this experience of having Biden, because it woke us up to how bad things can be and will be if we don't actively defend what is most valuable. Anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you. Thanks for listening, and talk to you again later.